Hello everyone, and welcome to another video by me, Secret Lair. Today, people have been requesting me to make a champion tier list, and I decided to troll you guys a little bit and instead make a enchantment tier list. So we got all the enchantments down here. I have my phone to the side here for a change, so I can look at enchantments on it. And we're gonna go through each enchantment, and I'm gonna say where I think like how good they are. S rank is going to be like used in almost every game mode. A is going to be a really good enchant. B is going to be like more specific, like it's useful for specific things. C is like you might use it every now and then, and then F is it's just never used. It's useless. So we're gonna go through these, and we're gonna start with agility. So we got agility 4 here, and what it does is it gives you a 6% dodge chance. And honestly, it's a 6% dodge chance. So 6%, if you put this on 2 sets of armor, that's 12%. That's 1 in 10 hits. And if you think about, well, about 1 in 10, I mean, like, it's 12 and 100. But fights are going to be done by the time this activates most of the time. So, I mean, it's very painfully obvious that this goes into F tier. Because even if you have a warrior that you put 4 of these on, 3 of these on, so a helmet, shield, and armor, you're only going to get an 18% dodge chance, unless it stacks with a hero's ability. I still don't see it ever being useful. And if it did stack with the hero's ability, oh my gosh, that'd be horrid. This goes in F tier. It's basically useless and it's dangerous. Also, if they were to increase this to be usable, because it's just too dangerous to use. Because then like, oh, everyone's missing all the time. Like Lucky, who increases the chance of projectiles missing, would then become barely ever hittable if you up this, and you just have a Lucky sitting. You'd have to use melee all the time. So yeah, this goes into F tier because it's kind of one of those enchants that's never going to be popular. Period. All right, next is we got Armor Piercer. So what Armor Piercer does is if the enemies have more max armor than you, you deal 115% damage to them. So this is good. Like, I mean, for ranged and melee units, not melee, sorry, ranged and magic units, they have less armor than melee units, so it makes sense. They're going to do more damage to melee units if they have Armor Piercer on. It's 115%, so it's not too horribly much, but it is a damage boost. It is frequently used in Arena and PvP, so I'm going to put it as A tier. The only reason I wouldn't put it S tier is because in boss fights, usually you prefer something that targets more HP than armor, because bosses will often have more HP than armor. There might be cases where a boss has more armor, but most of the time they're going to have more health too, so it goes here. It's used in PvP frequently, it's used in raids, it's used in a lot of aspects of the game. Your mages, I believe, are the ones that use Mage armor is the weakest, therefore you do the most damage. I will note, however, if you're a whale and you just start playing, your armor is going to be better than everyone you're facing. So Armor Piercer is not going to be beneficial to you in this case, because it's likely, since you have the best armor, until you get to mid-late game, you're going to want to avoid using Armor Piercer because you're going to have too good of armor for the enemy. You're going to want to use Giant Slayer instead. Alright, next we have Besiege. Right now in the game, so I'm tempted. Jeez, I need water already. So I'm tempted to put this one in S, but it goes in and out of being popular. Right now, it's very popular in PvP. It's very popular in bosses. Every aspect of the game, it's very popular. Basically what Besiege does is you gain 2 charges on attack. You gain 0 charges when being attacked. So, units that, like, basically while you're attacking on the front line, you want to be able to use your ability more frequently. You use Besiege because every single attack, it notches stuff up. Now, it's only for melee units. So you put it on a melee, it's only for a two-hander weapon. So you put it on a melee two-hander, they go whack, whack, whack a few times, and then all of a sudden their ability procs. It's good for damage spec units, so and it basically will make you proc more. It's great for Hercules. It's pretty good for Buddy, and there's several other heroes that Besiege can be pretty good on, just because you get a proc more often. Use Besiege in boss fights over Smite, just because your ability proccing more will often deal more damage than Smite does. So we're going to put this, I'm going to put an S, because it's used in every aspect of the game. It's a very good weapon enchant for two-handed melee users, but note it should be a damage user. For tanks, you use a different, and we'll get to that later. We use a different one for tanks. So next one, we got Blessing. So what Blessing does is it heals 1.75% of max health every 1 second. I mean, 1.75% of max health per second. Fights lasting 5 seconds, that means you recover 5 times 1.75 is going to be, I don't know, 8% of your health. Somewhere around there. I'm just doing, not even calculating it, just estimating it. So like a fight's going to be over max 10 seconds. I know fights go for a long time now, but still 17% of your health over 10 seconds. There's abilities that heal more than that. I mean, Mary will heal more than that in one proc of her skill versus 10 seconds of this. It just doesn't heal enough to matter. And it goes in that dangerous category that if they buffed it too much, it would make the game really hard. Like, you just put Blessing on tanks, and tanks just live forever. Could they make it good? Sure. It's meant only for melee units, but it looks like it's only meant for, like, armor. Not melee units, sorry. It's only meant for armor. So any class, but again, I've never seen it used. It goes in F tier. I don't even know if it's redeemable. You wouldn't. There's so many better enchants and active skills that can be used instead of Blessing. Why do you need Blessing when Mary's gonna heal more than this ever will? So, this is obsolete upon arrival. These two. Alright, so next up we got Chance Resistance. Chance Resistance, you got a 7.5% chance to resist 50% of incoming damage. So this thing's been nerfed. It used to give like 80% resistance, and it used to stack heavier, or like it used to be like just 16% total, so it didn't matter how much chance resistance you had. And like yeah. So it used to be more powerful than it was. Some people still use it because, I mean, 7.5%, you'd put this on, what, a helmet, armor, and a shield, and you've got, what is that, 7.5 twice is 15%, you got 22.5%, somewhere around there. Chance of proccing this 50% reduced damage. So some people use it in dungeons. It has its use in dungeons. You would never use it in arena. You'd never use it in raids, just because you don't want anything that's per chance based in raids. You don't want anything chance based in boss fights. You don't want anything chance based in arena at this point, unless it's a really good chance, unless the odds are in your favor. So this goes into very specific uses, because it only has uses in dungeons, so weekend events. But seeing It's used on weakened events, so I'm trying to contemplate whether I want to put this in B, just because it could get you up higher in weakened events. But I think I'm just going to put it in C, because the only reason you'd use it is if you really tried on weakened events. So I'm going to leave it there. Next, we have Crit 4. Well, Crit 4 gives you 10% chance for basic attacks to crit, dealing 220% damage. You can put it on all weapon types. And this used to be really good. I think it used to be a 15% chance or something like that. Or 12% chance. I don't know. It used to have a higher percent chance of proccing this crit damage. And is it still used? Yes, actually now it's used by Hou-Yi. Hou-Yi works very well with that. The reason for that is his attack speed goes up so much that he ends up more likely to proc it. By the time you reach 5 seconds, it's probably procced at least once. If you reach 10 seconds, it's probably procced at that point 3 times, you know. I'm just saying that off the top of my head. I would have to calculate the probability. I don't feel like doing math right now. But, yeah, Crit 4 it's used specifically with Hou-Yi. It used to be used more, but they nerfed it, so I'm putting it in C rank because it's only used for 1 unit in the game. But that 1 unit would use it in all aspects of the game. But since it's limited for 1 unit, I'm putting it in here. I don't know if you use it with Bunny, because Bunny's another hero where he all of a sudden goes high speed. But other than those 2 units, like, you're not going to use Crit 4 for anything. So, next up, Defense Boost 4. You gain 17% extra armor on item. So this goes for any armor type item, and so it sounds good on paper, 17% extra armor. So if you put it on every unit type, you'd get a lot of extra armor. The problem is damage reduction is so much better than adding armor that, like, you got to think of it over time. Like, yeah, you got more armor, but over time that armor goes away. You're not gonna, and they're doing the same amount of damage every single time. So the longer the fight, the less good this is. There's, thinking about that, so early in a fight it might be good. If you have really short fights, maybe Defense Boost 4 might be better than certain resistances. I never thought of using it, but since no one uses it, I assume they already tried it and it doesn't work very well. I am going to put it in F tier because it's just not used in any aspect of the game. But it has potential for raids. But if I was put it up here, it's not used in any aspect of the game, so I can't put it up here. If I added a D tier, like, can I add a D tier? Whoopsie, nope. What just happened there? All right. Is there a way to add a D tier? Can I add a row? Add a row above? Boom. There we go. Okay, I'm adding a row right here. Why is that? Okay, I'm gonna just put this. Oh, okay. Whoopsie. Okay. So I'm adding a D, A, B, C, D. This is gonna go in D. It could have potential. It might still not. So it might be good in raids where you want really short fights. So the high armor would let you live against a hit. But the damage reduction might end up beating it out still in the end. I'm gonna say D is for, like, maybe, but it's still not likely going to be ever good. Anyways, so we're gonna go to damage 4. Damage 4, gain 15% extra damage on item. It's on all weapons. So boost your damage. Right now, I think, from my knowledge, it's used in every aspect of the game except boss fights. So the reason for that is because they've nerfed all the other damage boosting skills so much that damage 4 is all that's left. It's kind of like, when it first came out, it was probably like down here of it could be good. But now it's like up here because it's used in every aspect of the game now because it's just the best damaging damage booster you can get with conditions. So, I'll just end it there. Like, yeah, that's the reason why I'm putting it there. Finishing blow. So you have finishing blow. Finishing blow is going to be different depending on your weapon type. So for magic, it's 120%. For one-handed weapon, it's 120%. For two-handed, it's 140%. And for bow, it's 115%. Given these numbers, you can automatically realize that it's not as good for a bow user, period. I know it says bow here. Because Giant Slayer and Armor Piercer already, as long as the hero has more max HP, you're going to deal more damage. But Finishing Blow, it's like if they have no armor. They have to have no armor for this to proc. Other than Leo and a few others, this isn't going to proc most of the fight. It's not going to proc till the end. So it's just not good. Like, you want this to be around, and there's no bosses. Like, it's 115%. This isn't enough for boss fights. So, I mean, this just goes in the big fail. I don't think it's ever been a thing. Finishing Blow's just not worth it when you usually cut through people's HP fast anyways. And it wouldn't be good till the end of the fight, and most of your team's going to be dead by then. If you want this extra damage, you want the extra damage early in the fight to be able to eliminate people faster. So it's just not good. So now we move on to Fortify. Fortify, gain bonus charges when attacked. I believe this is like you gain like 2 bonus charges or 1 bonus charge when attacked. I'm not sure. The description in game does not say how many charges you get, but I think it was 1 charge. Otherwise, you'd just get your main attack off way too fast. So this is used by all tanks in the game. In every aspect of the game except boss fights. You would not use Fortify in a boss fight, but you use it in... right now, I don't think they even use it in raids. It's mostly arena and dungeons that you'd use Fortify for. And you'd only use it for your tank. So because of that, I'm going to put it in the B tier. It's good, but there's only certain survivability aspects you want that for. And it is a little bit limited, but it is really good for a tank. It is an amazing skill for a tank. Now we move on to Gambit. Gambit used to be a favorite for people. Deal 130% damage at the beginning of the match, decreasing by 10% per second for 25% damage, 1 second decay delay. So every 1 second, the damage gets, the damage boost lessens. So in the first 3 seconds, your heroes are dealing 130% damage. That sounds great, right? Except for the fact that the fight, the damage usually doesn't happen until 3 seconds. So by the time this actually starts going off, you're dealing 100% damage. Yeah, you're just doing regular damage. You're just doing regular damage by the time Gambit goes off. It used to be that it would reduce your health. So you'd get this 130% damage over time. But for some reason they decided to completely change how it does, and it just made Gambit useless. Because it used to be a Gambit of, oh, I'm going to lose health, but I'm going to do a lot of damage. So hopefully I deal all the damage I can by the time the fight's over. But now it's, I guess there's a 1 second decay. Okay, so it says 1 second delay, so it doesn't go off the first second. But so you're only going to get like 2 seconds. Because, okay, so you got 1 second. Fights usually doesn't start till like 3 seconds in raids. This is only going to be useful for raids. You don't want it for arena. So like by the second or third second, you're already at 120 to 110%. There's no way this is going off. Your ability is going to benefit from this, your active ability. So it just, they nerfed it into the ground. They nerfed it into F tier. It used to be like, oh, it was really good for raids. It used to be B tier. And then they nerfed it, and now it's F tier. Like, it's not good for any aspect of the game. Alright, next we have Giant Slayer. Deals 115% damage to enemies with more max HP. Now this, I'm going to say immediately, I'm putting it in S tier. So why? Every aspect of the game uses Giant Slayer. Bosses, all bosses have high HP. You're highly likely to use Giant Slayer. I don't know, maybe, I haven't done the math, maybe a boss has more health than your units. And like an earlier boss, it might be better not to use Giant Slayer, but still, on boss fights, you're going to use Giant Slayer for a lot of them. For fights against enemies, I believe Rangers are going to use them. Rangers have the lowest health. So all Rangers are going to use Giant Slayer. If you are a whale and you're just starting off, you're going to be low in level and therefore use Giant Slayer. Because you're going to have great armor, but Giant Slayer is just, it's such a good enchant. Because you just have to look at the enemy's max health and your max health, and you know, okay, I'm going to win. You look in a raid, you go, okay, what's all their levels? You know, okay, so most of them are above my level, or most of them are below. So in certain circumstances, like me, I'm facing a lower guild, Giant Slayer might not be great for me, just because I'm so much higher level than them. But yeah, Giant Slayer, great. Next up, we got Magic Resistance 3. Resist 13% of magic damage. So, we had a 3 magic team. The problem is, the only magic damage dealer currently out is Kronos, really. He's a really strong single target. There's also Zeus who does AoE. And you use three magic teams, but the problem is magic users are often support. So often the enemy team composes of like 2 supporting magic users and 1 damage dealing magic user. And the support units do no damage. And they all of them are ranged units. And there's usually 1 ranger on the enemy team too. So this ends up being outshined by one of its other cousins. So it has to go here because it's just outshined completely by its cousins. And it's just not good. Where could it be good? I don't know. I honestly don't know. It's trash. That's why it's an F. There's no redeeming quality for it. Maybe I should say if there's a redeeming quality. If they could change Gambit back to how it used to be, to make it good again, because it wasn't completely overpowered. You didn't use it in all aspects of games. These are overpowered because they're used in all aspects of the game. So I'll put Gambit here. These ones I just don't think there's any redeeming quality to them. There could they make it? They'd have to make a lot of changes to the game to make some of these useful. Boost this in boss fights only. Alright, you got Magic Transmutation. So this is an interesting one. Magic Transmutation converts all damage to magic damage. So this would be great if anyone used the magic resist and physical resist fights. You know, if these actually mattered, then maybe we would use them. But since no one uses, no heroes, there's no resistant, like Fire Emblem or something, like with some of those games, there's like magic resistance and then there's physical resistance. Well, we get those in the forms of enchantable items, but units themselves do not have physical or magical resistances. So a magic transmutation is pointless when all the enemies have the same defense stat. I hope that makes sense. This is pointless because this is pointless. This pointless because this pointless. I mean, that's kind of how it works. Physical transmutations goes here too, and physical resistance goes here too, because there's no point into them. This actually has a point. I'm gonna put it there. So I'll do this next. But these basically are not. There's no use to them because magical resist is pointless. You're not going to change all your damage types to one damage type, or the other, because there's no heroes where that matters. So why use it? You know, why? You know? Um, and then physical resistance. So physical resistance, it's bows and swords. So I could see if an enemy team was full of blown swords, you've never seen a 5-man magic team. You're just never gonna see it. Could it happen? Maybe, but it's not likely. Physical archer and a melee team could feasibly happen if they came out with heroes in a certain way that, like a 3 melee 2 ranged team in the future, maybe. And then physical resistance would be useful. That's why I'm putting it here, because it could be useful. I feel like anything in the D tier could be boosted up with one update from D to A, even maybe to S. You know, Crit 4 used to be in S. Gambit used to be in B. You know, so these could easily be boosted with one update. But yeah. Now we got melee resist. Melee resist might be good. It's good in certain circumstances. So it's good in the final boss of boss fights. You put it on your tank, and boom, it can take damage. You put it on Afro, she takes some damage but doesn't die. If in certain cases, some dungeons might have a lot of melee units, and you need the melee resist. It's not frequent, so I'm just gonna put it here. It's just not frequent where you use it. It's okay. It's just you don't face melee units all that much. So I'm gonna then skip to the projectile resistance here. Projectile resistance, because it's used frequently, because you have a lot of projectile units, mages and rangers usually comprise of 3 of the members of a team. Normally, very rare circumstances you have 3 melees, but usually those units are some of the damage dealers. And currently, the raid meta is that. So I'm putting it in B tier. No, I'm putting it in A tier because it's used frequently. Like projectile resistance is used so frequently on tanks, and well, no, it's not used in every aspect of the game. So I'm gonna put it in B tier too. Now you got Omni-resist. Omni-resist. It resists all stuff by... Oh, I forgot to say what the projectile resistance... How much does it resist? So it's 12%. So magic damage... The magic resist is 13% damage resistance. The projectile resistance is 12%. The physical resistance is 13. And then the melee resistance is 14%. Even with these percentage differences, it's just not enough if they want to make it. Now, the Omni-resist is 8% for all damage types. So you could get this up to 16, 24% for all damage types. I've seen people use it. I don't think it's good. I think it's just too low of resistance. It's kind of on the same level of defense boost. Omni-resist would be good over time, while defense boost would be good right away. But they're just not as good as, say, projectile resist. They're just not. That resistance is far greater than the Omni-resist and targets a select unit. Alright, next we have Power 3. Power 3 goes up here. It's used in every aspect of the game, period. You put it on your armor of your damaging units. That's plain and simple. Your armor gets that. If you are high, like even in some cases when I'm doing raids, if I'm raiding a much lower guild and I know all of their units have less health and less armor, I'll put this on some of my helms to boost my damage more. Power 3 is just so good. Say it boosts your damage by 6%. You know, and so you'll go 6% to 12% if you have 2 pieces on. You're not going to put it on your weapon. You'll only put it on your armor. And maybe your helm, but very rarely will you put it on your helm. Still, it's going to S tier. It's used so much. Alright. Repulsion. So Repulsion, every 4th hit taken, regardless of damage, Releases a shockwave that deals 5% of max armor to enemies. Delay of 3 seconds between activation. Multiple stacks activate as one source of damage. So, this used to be broken, like hard broken. It just dealt so much damage. It used to be S tier. Even though it was like only used with like 2 units. I think it was like used on Atlas and Constant. And then they nerfed Constant, and then they nerfed Atlas. It was just too powerful. But they nerfed it all the way down here. The problem with like you see with a lot of this is like I'm gonna put it here just because they could undo certain things to make it useful again. But I think since it's so one track, like it's very hard to make Repulsion useful again, because it was so broken before. But it stays there. It just does. Next we have Second Wind. So just to tell you what Second Wind does. Heal 20% of damage taken over 2.5 seconds after a 1.5 second delay. Affects stacks and activates individually when taking damage repeatedly. So first of all, this skill, this one already destroys Blessing. Like, heal 20% of damage taken over 2.5 seconds after a 1.5 second delay. So it's like 1.5 seconds. So by 5 seconds, that's not even 5 seconds, I can't do math. 4 seconds into the game, you're healing 20% of your health. That's more than Blessing does the entire fight. Like, what the hell? Like, so Second Wind, it's just, yeah, it was good at one point, so I'll put it there. It used to be good. I think it was on Constant, actually, so it might not have been Repulsion on Constant. I think Repulsion was overpowered on Atlas, and Second Wind was overpowered on Constant, because Constant just lived constantly. Get it, Constant, huh? And then just kept on doing his AoEs till everything was dead. So could it be fixed? Sure, but it's just, like, it obsoletes Blessing. You'd never choose Blessing when you have Second Wind. Like, period, end of story. Alright. Next, you have Shattering Blow. So to read these off, with a bow, it's 115%. So for the same reason, Shattering Blow, not worth it. Two-handed, it's 135%. One-hand, 115%. And Shattering and Magic, it's 120%. So, I mean, the boosted with Magic is nice. I'm going to put it here, because most enemies start with armor on, so you want to shatter through that armor, right? Because it only activates when the enemies have armor. But overall, like, they've nerfed it so hard, so maybe it's useful with a two-hander, but because Besiege is so good right now, it outshines Shattering Blow. So you'd always use Besiege more than Shattering Blow most of the time. It used to be used Shattering Blow with Magic users, but they nerfed the damage that does to the ground. So could it come back? It could easily come back. Alright, next we have Smites. So, Smites, every fourth basic attack causes a lightning strike, dealing 275% of weapon damage. Multiple stacks activate as one source of damage. And it only goes on weapons. It's going to be on weapons. And then I think that, the 274% is for swords, 140 for one-handed swords, 275 for two-handers, 175 for magic, and 150% for bows. There's such a good damage boost. It ends up being really, really good for boss fights. So much so they use it for every boss fight. And I think there's some people who use it in Arena, but I'm not sure who uses it in Arena, to be honest. I can't remember. I'm going to put it in B tier just because it's so good for boss fights. It's ridiculously good for boss fights. And I think I think I remember hearing it was used in other thing. It's just, it's great damage over time. So every fourth hit, and you got 30 seconds for a boss fight no matter what. So you're going to do a lot of damage over time. And then I think it's become good for Arena, because Arena fights are lasting much longer because of Lucky. Therefore, people are using Smite because you get that guaranteed huge damage boost every so often. It is outshined by Besiege, obviously, but I don't think it's in every aspect of the game. I kind of want to put it in A tier, but no, I'm going to keep it in B tier. Alright, next you got Swordbreaker. So what does Swordbreaker do? It deals 115% damage to enemies with higher base damage. So to be specific on this one, higher base damage means... I should have kept my thing open to show you. But when you're in the hero menu, there, and you have your armor equipped and everything, there is like a damage, like or power or something like that. And that is what this applies to. So if the enemy's damage is higher, you do more damage. So Swordbreaker is really good for the last boss of the week for late game players and the last 3 bosses for early game players. You just get such a huge boost in damage using Swordbreaker over using Giant Slayer. Sometimes it's harder to implement in Arena, but it can be done if you're using heroes, if you're noticing everyone else's heroes do more damage. But it's still, Swordbreaker still just doesn't match up perfectly. Like, it's very niche. It's used in certain aspects of the game, so I'm putting it in C tier. But it's rarely used, but when it is used, it's really good. But yeah. And then last, we got Vampirism 3. Heals for 20% of base damage inflicted. Oh my gosh, another thing that outshines Blessing. It's still shit. It's just, again, like, these ones that heal. Second Wind, Vampirism 3. These go here. What am I doing? All these healing skills go here. Why? Because you have heroes that outshine them. You have Mary that heals better than those skills ever will. You have Leo, who doesn't need Vampirism. He has Vampirism built into his kit, so you would never use Vampirism on him because you don't need it. There's just, for most of the aspects of the game, you're not going to use these when you want damage resistance more than you want extra healing. And if they added extra healing to a certain point, it would then make Arena just miserable for everyone. So these healing passive enchants are just pointless. Anyway, so this is my tier list for enchants in Auto Battles Online. I hope you enjoyed it. It's going to be a long video. And other than that, please like and subscribe. And I hope you enjoyed the video. Bye.